Welcome to AI Pulse, where we break down the most important AI news. So, what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? Well, back in March of 2026, the entire AI industry found out the hard way. We're about to dive into the whirlwind week that, no exaggeration, changed everything. All right, so here's what we've got on tap. First, we're going to set the scene and talk about just how insane the pace was in March. Then we'll get into the new models and hardware that were fueling all of it. After that, we'll tackle this idea of the agent uprising, what it is and why everyone was talking about it. And then we hit the reality check, the staggering costs. Finally, we'll look at how the whole industry had to pivot and how that basically kicked off a brand new era for AI. March 2026, it wasn't just busy. It was something else entirely. It was like a perfect storm. This massive inflection point where all these different trends in hardware, in software, and just sheer ambition all came to a head at the exact same time. And just look at this timeline. It really shows you how compressed everything was. We're talking about a 3-week window where we got major model releases from basically every big player, a conference that completely reframed the industry, and then bam, a huge product shutdown. The pace was just wild, absolutely relentless. So what was driving this incredible speed? Well, you can think of it like two massive engines firing at the same time. On one hand, you had this super powerful new software coming out of the AI labs. And on the other, you had the revolutionary hardware being built specifically to run that software. And at the top of the food chain, you had the two big titans just slugging it out. OpenAI dropped GPT 5.4, which was this huge deal because it could actually control a computer. But then you had Anthropic's Opus 4.6, which was still just a little bit better at really complex coding, but man, it came with a much, much higher price tag. And this quote, this just perfectly captures the sheer ambition on the hardware side of things. At NVIDIA's GTC conference, their CEO, Jensen Huang, basically got on stage and said AI isn't a product anymore. He said it's essential infrastructure, like electricity. He wasn't talking about selling you an app. He was talking about powering civilization. And they weren't just talking. They backed it all up. They announced the Vera Rubin GPU, which was designed to massively cut the cost of running AI. They rolled out a platform to let big companies build their own AI workers. They even started copying about physical robots. But here's the killer move. They gave everyone a roadmap for their chips for the next 3 generations, basically telling the entire industry, you're going to be with us for a while. Okay, so what's so fascinating here is that all of this stuff, the new models, the new hardware, it was all pointing to the exact same thing. It was all converging on this one big idea, agentic AI. So what the heck does that actually mean? All right, put simply, an agent is an AI that doesn't just give you an answer, it actually gets a job done. Think about it like this. It's the difference between asking an AI for a recipe versus having an AI that can look up the recipe, order all the groceries for you, preheat your oven, and then shoot you a text when it's time to cook. It doesn't just talk, it acts. And one of the first mind-blowing examples of this came from Andrej Karpathy. He built a system where an AI agent could read a simple text file with some high-level goals, and then it would just go off and run 100 different research experiments completely on its own overnight. This is work that would normally take a whole team of people weeks to do, and he did it with one person and one GPU. Just incredible. And listen, this wasn't just some research project or a cool demo. At that same NVIDIA conference, it came out that huge Fortune 500 companies were already using these AI agents in production. We're talking logistics, finance, pharmaceuticals. It was this huge moment where agents went from being a theory to a reality. But, and this is a huge but, all of this incredible world-changing power came with an absolutely staggering price tag, one that, as it turned out, might not be sustainable at all. The scale of the spending here is it's hard to wrap your head around. Just 4 companies, Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, and Microsoft, were projected to spend $650 billion in 2026 alone. That's about 2% of the entire US GDP from 4 companies. Just let that sink in for a second. And it's not just the spending. It's the burn rate. It's breathtaking. An HSBC report estimated that for OpenAI to hit its revenue goals, basically to become as big as Microsoft is today, it might need to burn through almost $280 billion in financing by 2030. Yeah, for some of the biggest AI labs, the math, well, it just wasn't adding up. Reports started coming out that a leading company like Anthropic was spending something like $2 for every single dollar it was making. And then, the first big crack appeared. OpenAI completely shut down its Sora video API, the one that was generating all those incredible videos. And they basically came out and said that the cost to run it was, and this is a quote, economically irreconcilable. In other words, it was just way too expensive to ever be a real business. So this economic reality check sent a shockwave through the whole industry. And the response was fast. We're talking just a few weeks later, in April, Anthropic drops a new model and it signals this massive strategic pivot for everybody. See, the whole game had changed. Instead of just trying to get the highest score on some benchmark test, this new model, Claude Opus 4.7, was built for one thing: efficiency. The whole narrative shifted. It wasn't just about being the smartest anymore. It was about being smart and affordable enough to actually use in the real world. And here's the really clever business move. Check out the pricing. Anthropic didn't actually lower its price. Nope. Instead, they gave you a way more efficient, way more controllable model for the exact same price as the old one. So they were delivering way more value for the money, which was a slick way of undercutting their main rival. And this wasn't just some marketing spin either. This was real. Big customers like Box came out and said they saw huge efficiency gains. We're talking about the new model doing the exact same complex job using less than half the number of calls to the AI. That's a massive real-world savings in both money and time. And this is so important. It wasn't just that the model was more efficient. They also gave developers new tools, like task budgets, so they could control costs from the start. This was a direct answer to that nightmare scenario of a runaway agent just spending money uncontrollably, the thing that was giving CFOs everywhere sleepless nights. So, when you put it all together, the new models, the reality check on costs, the new tools for control, you realize this set a completely new baseline for the whole industry. The focus shifted from just raw, brute force power to practical, scalable intelligence. So to wrap it all up, that crazy whirlwind in March 2026 really did set a new normal. The race for pure power basically slammed head-on into the wall of economic gravity. And as a result, the entire industry had to pivot. The new goal? Building AI that was not just smarter, but also more efficient and, critically, more controllable. And all this leaves us with a really big question going forward. As this technology keeps getting smarter and more efficient, who's actually going to capture the value? Is it the companies making the models, the ones making the hardware? Or is it the people who figure out how to build the most useful agents? Because it's not just about having the biggest model anymore. The real race now is to see who can make AI a truly productive and profitable part of our world.